Senator Dan Coats is supporting the president's plan to defeat the Islamic State. Prior to the speech, Coats said it would be a defining moment for Barack Obama. Coats is a member of the Senate Intelligence Committee, and he still has questions regarding the strategy, but told me that he liked what he heard.
What I liked is the president stood up and took leadership to a real threat. He defined that threat for the American people, and he stated the goal, and I needed to hear that, and we needed to hear that. That is not just manage, not just contain. We need to defeat this group that is out to kill us and out to change the civilized world.
John Ketzenberger, is there a hidden message there?
I didn't hear one. I heard that he liked what he heard from the president, and it's something that the Republicans have talked about in their own case, and it sounds to me like it's pretty straightforward.
I thought it was interesting that he started with the positive, but then had a number of negatives, unlike some people like John McCain, who started with the negative.
John McCain. Clearly, the question is, you think there is a message there. I'm not sure what it is. It's, I guess it's not surprising that somebody who is oft quoted on foreign affairs issues because of his current committee assignments, and he did get a lot of attention and airplay with CNN and other places this week, why he would leaven criticism or enthusiastic support with criticism. I mean, he is the loyal opposition, a Republican, yeah. So I guess the fact that he's going to temper his praise doesn't necessarily. So keep with us, Jim. What is it you're looking for?
Well, I thought it was interesting because he went on CNN and he went on the Senate floor and said I have these expectations, and then immediately he said my expectations were met. It seemed like he was trying to set something up there that he didn't then knock over.
Well, I mean, I think he clearly expressed some concern on other areas, but I mean, there are rare times when Republican leaders agree with the president. And I think it's good to acknowledge those. And in this case, he acknowledged them, but what remains to be seen is if the president can actually follow through and has the will to challenge this task. He said a lot of the right things, and so that has been acknowledged.
I think what you have here is you've got a moderate Republican who recognizes that we need one voice in foreign affairs, one commander-in-chief. And he had the courtesy to listen to the speech before he opened his mouth. And what he said was that this is the right approach. It's the right approach.
You haven't always called Dan Coats a moderate, have you?
Well, compared to Mike Pence, I think I would, yes. Yes. Compared to Mike Pence, everybody to the left of Attila the Hun might be a moderate. But my point on this is that he, unlike Mike Pence, does not want to see the commitment of ground troops again for another Mideast war. Right. And what we're seeing here is how do you deal with this situation with countries which aren't even in the last century without that? And I think this is a good strategy for him to employ, and I think Dan Coats recognizes that.
I think what's ironic is, President Obama has spent years complaining about the conflict that he inherited from President Bush, and, and Ann has certainly made that point several times on the show today. And it looks like, what we may end up seeing is President Obama doing the same thing and leaving his successor a conflict left to do.
We started in there, and if you don't read history and don't learn from history, there have been wars, for example, in Afghanistan going back centuries, and no one has ever won them. And yet, there goes George Bush into it nonetheless. John. That's the problem.
Actually, I think your question cuts to a reality about Washington politics these days. It has become so polarized, and so the automatic reaction to anything. Right. Doesn't matter what the policy could be: domestic policy, economic policy, foreign policy, healthcare reform. Where's the president? We're over here. Yeah. And it goes both ways.
When you
have somebody who actually says some of these things sound logical, people tend to look for what's the catch or the hidden message or the trick. When
cynics do that.
Maybe because it's so rare, and that's what's sad, I guess, maybe about the state of federal and national politics.
To the State House, the governor revealed some big changes